Hi there, this is Pat McDonald, your co-host for Banter and Beans. And to add to the excitement, I have my cup of coffee,
We got our
and
coffee.
there you go. And the tagline for the show is "What's brewing in Vermont?" Get it? Very clever. Joining me today is Ben Kinsley, who's going to be reviewing a bill for you, H480, and the title, Ben, is.
It's the Miscellaneous Education Bill.
Oh my word, are you going to be on for like 2 hours?
I hope not. I hope not.
Oh
This
my
is supposed to
word.
be a short format show, so let's hope that's
That bill's a killer. Yeah.
yes, yeah.
And
Well,
I'm
and
going to be,
this,
oh, excuse me.
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was going to say I was going to be doing Act 57, which is very interesting to me and to all of us because it's a statute governing emergency management and flood response. And I have a few
So that'll
comments
be
about that one.
so that'll be our next show, right?
Right.
The emergency
Exactly. Next one.
management. So stay tuned for that. But yeah, so H480, this is Miscellaneous Education Bill, for those that don't know, is a they pass one basically every year. They pass some sort of miscellaneous education bill. There were a few interesting things in this one, and we'll get into them. Some of them are kind of boring, so we'll like skim over the boring things that it did. But some of them are kind of interesting. So this is a bill that started in the House, made its way over to the Senate, um, and there was a couple things that it did. One, it delayed the implementation of the school safety bill. So this is for like active shooter situations. There was some pushback from schools because they were just not prepared to implement the requirements of that bill. So it pushed that back. And it also repealed some of the data reporting requirements for the school safety incidents. So, like if there's a problem, like someone brings a weapon to school, and so it delayed some of the reporting requirements for that as well. It also updated the list of accredited post-secondary schools, the idea to prevent diploma scams, and it made some steps to legitimize virtual learning opportunities by requiring access for students that have certain requirements. So like, that students have more access to virtual learning opportunities. It also allowed BOCES, which are boards of cooperative education services. This is a structure that was created last year. That is like sort of the way I'm describing it is a supervisory union. So it's another administrative structure in between supervisory unions and the State Board of Education. Those are new. They're sort of forming now, but this change this year in this bill would allow them to apply for grants before the creation of articles of agreement, meaning that they could use a grant money to help write their articles of agreement when they're forming these things. And there's a whole nother that sort of plays into the whole uh, education reform discussion, which we won't get into. That's a different bill. We will talk about it at some point. But um, two other sort of important related things that it did is it expanded flexible pathways. So if you remember, this is an initiative from like 10 plus years ago, which allowed for high school students to attend post-secondary
Oh, right.
education. So like you can do like early college or
Right.
something like that, an accreditation program while you're still in high school. So it's called flexible pathways. It is now it now includes military related opportunities, so military training that's like certain like technical training that's provided by the National Guard or the armed services can qualify for the
Oh,
flexible
cool.
pathways program. So that's kind of cool. And sort of going hand in hand with that, it also expanded tuition benefits for National Guard members to make, again, more generous post-secondary education opportunities. So folks who are Guard members, have more access to post-secondary
And so, Ben,
education.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but I'd like to talk about that just a little bit. So in high school, if the kids want to join the guard program, do they go to the guard at the airport or does somebody come to them? And is there a guarantee that they're going to join the military after graduation, or is it hopeful that
Um,
they're going to do that?
I think for high school students, it's hopeful. Like there's no commitment for high school
Right.
students. For the college programs, like the tuition benefits for post-secondary, there is a commitment level
Commitment.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, sort of like ROTC is a larger commitment than what the Guard has. I think the Guard's a 2-year thing. ROTC is a 4-year thing. I did ROTC, so I'm familiar with that
There you
program.
go.
Um, but there's also sort of hand in hand with that, sort of these post-secondary changes. There's also expanded access to career and technical education programs. So, there's these the CTE regions around the state. So like they're sort of like the feeder program for
Huh.
CTE. So like if you in a particular school district, you have a particular CTE that's assigned to you. But if that CTE does not have a certain program, say you want to do diesel tech, right, or whatever, and your CTE doesn't provide that, this bill allows you to go to a different CTE center, even if it's not the one that's assigned to your district. So it's a little bit, it's like sort of like a tuitioning program a little bit, so that the program you're interested in isn't provided by your local CTE. You can go somewhere else to get that.
Excellent. What an opportunity. My daughter had a very close friend, and she went into the Air Force and became a fighter pilot. I mean,
Yeah.
really. I was blown away when she called me. She called me Aunt Pat, and to tell me what she's doing and what they're letting her do. And I'm like, they're letting you in a fighter pilot. Oh my
Pretty cool
God.
stuff. Like
Oh, it's
it's
amazing. What
very
a
hard,
career.
by the way, very hard to get into those roles. Those are like the fighter pilots in particular. Like
Yep.
those are the best of the best.
Well, she is an amazing kid, just being friends with my daughter and hanging out in my house. I never contemplated the fact that she'd be up in the skies behind
Flying a jet.
the exactly. Just
Yeah.
boggled my mind.
Total side note: we are going this fall to Virginia Beach to watch the air show there. So the Blue Angels come and fly, and it's
Oh,
the
nice.
Virginia Beach has the one of the largest Navy air bases in the world, and so we're gonna go see them fly, which is gonna be pretty cool.
How excellent. What fun is that?
Yeah, very fun.
Oh,
So
good.
total side. Um, the one of the other important things, two other important things that this bill does. One is that it requires schools to develop a emergency response plan. So if a student is having a cardiac issue, they have a response plan to deal with that. So this is something that school districts are going to be required to do. The other thing that it does is require districts to develop school library policies that are meant to affirm the freedom to read and uphold principles related to free speech, diversity, civil rights, and resisting censorship. So those are programs that or policies that each school district is going to be required to develop over the coming years. One other one that is maybe sort of a recent political memory, but there was some conflict over the last couple of years between the legislature and the governor over the appointment of the Secretary of Education. The current one, Zoe Saunders, was not a popular pick at
Right?
first with the legislature. I think that, to some degree, she's won them over, but that was an uphill battle. And also, the governor was criticized for not appointing anyone immediately, and that Secretary of Education's slot was open for quite a while. Like there was no one serving in that role. So this bill requires that when a vacancy is posted for the Secretary of Education, there must be a nationwide search to fill the vacancy within 60 days, and funds can be requested from the Agency of Education to do so. So there's now a 60-day requirement to
Wow.
fill that role. Yeah.
You want the right person, though, right?
You do want
Sometimes
the
it,
right person, yes. I think the way that the language is written, and I'm not a lawyer, but the way that the language is written says to me they just have to initiate the search within 60 days. They don't
oh,
necessarily have to find a person within
yep.
60 days.
Yeah, because that's
So
not an easy task. It's a very
no,
hard job.
no, it's not. All right, and that brings us to the most interesting thing that this bill does, which is put in place a cell phone free policy,
Ah, right.
statewide policy. This was originally in a different bill, and they rolled it into H480 right at the last minute. And basically, it is a bell to bell policy, meaning devices are put away from the when the bell rings in the morning to when the bell rings in the afternoon. Um, and there are some exceptions to that. There's some exceptions for things like field trips, like your kids are allowed to have devices for field trips, or if there is some sort of medical reason, like a medical need, you need to have access to a device to stay in touch with your healthcare provider or your parents for some medical reason. So there's a couple exceptions to that. Each school is going to determine how to implement this. So there's not, it's, this bill sets the policy for like, here's what we expect. Um, and, uh, and each school is responsible for figuring out what that looks like for them, whether it is like they don't want to see devices out, it can stay in your bag, or it has to go into a locked box at the beginning of the day. Like they collect all the devices at the beginning of the day,
Hmm.
and then so like there's a couple different ways that states and several states have cell phone free policies in schools. I should say it also applies to tablets. Does not apply to Chromebooks or laptops that are provided by the school. It's so school
Right.
provided devices are acceptable, but not personal devices. The idea is to keep kids engaged in the classroom and minimize distractions, and most importantly, try to mitigate some of the damage of social media. That
Right.
we know now that young kids you know, really struggle with social media and
Right.
determining like what's real and what's not. And, you
That's a
know,
trick for older people too. I never know when I'm getting tricked.
when you're getting snookered.
Yes, right, exactly. You go, does that really? Yeah, I always check, especially if somebody died, you got to check.
You
No,
gotta
he
check.
didn't die.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, like, in the way I think about this, and there's a lot of clinical psychology now around like how damaging social media is, and just the behavior of social media, especially for like brains that are still forming.
Right.
But the way I like to talk about this is like, you think we live in, we're coming out of it now, or probably entering the AI age, but we've been in for the last 2 decades this information age where like we're just getting inundated with information all the time, and a lot of it is negative information. It's not that the world is necessarily a more terrible place than it was a couple hundred years ago. It's just that we know about it now, right? We know all the
Right.
terrible things that are happening, and so you're getting bombarded with that all the time. And as adults, we've kind of learned how to filter that information and put it in context, right? It's like, oh yeah, this is happening, or that's happening, and we can filter through and understand what's important and what we need to know. But kids don't have that filter yet. And
Right.
so they're getting bombarded by all this
Mhm.
information and it's overwhelming. And so, of course, they have anxiety problems because they're like, oh my God, the world's on fire. And so they think that that is sort of like one of the things. And then the other piece too is that the cyberbullying, like kids are
Right. That's gotten to be a
especially
real
young
scare.
teens.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like they can be really mean to each other. Like we have all of these stereotypes about school cafeterias and stuff. Scary thing today is that like kids have figured out like they'll be they'll have positive interactions in the school cafeteria, but then they're saying the terrible things to each other through social media, and that's not
Yep.
always easy to see, right? As a teacher or like a someone who's supposed to be supervising those interactions, like the interactions may look positive at face value, but then like on social media, they're ripping each other apart and you can't necessarily see that. And so like
Hmm.
those are some of the things that, are really kind of scary about the moment that we're living in. And I say that as someone who's, a millennial and for the most part a digital native, right? We didn't grow up with cell phones, like that's a whole different thing, but we mostly grew up with internet.
Well,
So
we had cell phones, but they were they were huge.
yes, yeah.
They
The
were
car
not like they are
phones.
now.
I remember this. Like my grandfather was a executive at a company, and he had a car phone. He had
Oh,
like a
whoa.
big box. It would plug into the car, and you pick it
Right.
up, and it worked almost nowhere because cell reception was
That's
like a
funny.
non-existent at that point. But
We've
he
come
had
a
one.
long way.
Yeah, and now we
Yeah.
have
Do we have a
these
few
things.
minutes, Ben, is,
We got
because
like
I'm,
1 or 2 minutes. Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
the first two things you read were put on hold. And how long is that? Do they, because to me, those are the two most important things of all the things you read. It would seem to me it's
The school safety
yeah, and
plans. Yeah.
the active shooter thing. It would seem to me that'd be right up on top, and that we would give schools all the help we can and funding to make those two things happen.
Yeah, and there's almost no funding attached to that, by the way. When you
Oh,
think about
great.
the age of our school district, our school buildings, like most of our school buildings are like, I think the average age is like fi almost 50 years old.
Wow.
Um, and it's really hard to retrofit these older buildings to have like, typically now the gold standard is to have two sets of doors that can lock
Right.
independently. So, and then also like sections of the school, if it's a larger school, sections you can lock
Cut them off.
off automatically.
Yep.
So as soon as a threat is detected, you can lock the whole facility down,
Yep.
and that's really hard. One, for smaller schools, you don't necessarily have like the actual space within the school to do that, but two, schools that were just never designed that way,
Yeah.
like structurally, it'd be pretty difficult to do it. So,
If
yeah,
if
it's.
so, when did they postpone it till another year, or
I didn't have that in my notes, but I
oh
think it's. I would guess, yeah, it's a year or two.
yeah, I'm just disagree with that one, but that's all right.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I think
because
it is partially a funding thing. I think it really is what it is. It's like they
I
don't have the
think there are
funds to
some
do
things
this.
that are very important and should be funded. You got to find the money somewhere. Seems to me active shooter would be one, but what do I know?
Yeah. Yep. You would
Anyway.
think.
Well, thank you for that summary. We always call those bills miscellaneous Christmas tree bills. If anybody ever hears the
Hang
phrase,
all the
it's a
ornaments on it. Yeah.
exactly. It's a we always had one in DMV. I think almost every department has a miscellaneous Christmas tree bill, which was what they refer to it if you ever hear that expression. Anyway, thank you, Ben, for your summary, and hope folks will keep tuning in because we're going to tick off all of the bills one after the other.
All
Thank
82
you.
of them.
Exactly. That'll keep us busy. Thank you all very much. See you in a little while.